We have some guys with us, so to start the discussions, we've invited some experienced Hi-5 users. I will introduce them in a couple of minutes, but otherwise, as I said, please really involve yourself, raise questions. Also feel free to comment on things that we say or is being said. Really hope that this is an open community discussion. So great to have you all on board here. Who is with us today? So maybe a short notice to myself. My name is Tobias. I'm product manager for the electronic control systems here at ARRI in Vienna. I actually joined ARRI just recently. So I joined in February this year, and I'm really on a steep learning curve. And actually, thanks to all of the key people here that you can see on the screen, they are really helpful with me. My background is actually I was a scientist for some years and then have a product management background in the automotive industry. And it's really a great experience being now here with ARRI, and we're looking forward to this session today. With me today is Michael Best. Michael Best is a colleague from myself, located in ARRI Inc. in New York. I think many of you will know Michael. Michael is also product manager in the Pro Camera accessories in New York. And yeah, he's slightly longer than myself at ARRI. So if I understood correctly, he's with ARRI since 2007. So it's quite a while. Could almost call you a dinosaur here. But you know, there are people at ARRI that work even way longer than Michael at this company. Yeah, prior to ARRI, actually, he worked as a focus puller for 10 years in the New York City area, and he's also a member of the local 600 member since 2001. Michael is mentoring me a lot, and after the cineRT show, he showed me around in the US region, so I'm really glad for that. And I also like the motto of Michael, so he really told me a lot about his new ideas and bring new product to the motion picture industry. I'm really grateful, Michael, that you are with us today and help me moderating this session. From the field, we have Brian Aichlmayer. I don't think he needs much introduction, but maybe let's try. Brian is also a local 600 member, first camera assistant, and you're also associate member of the Society of Camera Operators. You're working on many different projects, from commercials, features, and with many more, and you also have a lot of experience with multi-camera platforms. Yeah, and as I got to know you, you're very technically talented. Really like that. You also have your own Brian Aichlmayer and Quintero, I think it's called Quintero Focus Solutions. Yeah, I think everybody knows you from your social media accounts. So yeah, glad that you're with us here today, Brian. Also with us is Tim McLean. Tim is from UK. We've actually just been together for a couple of days at the CVP Focus Puller event and had a lot of funny discussions with him. So you're focus pulling since more than 12 years, and your background is a whole variety of projects, from drama, multicam, but nowadays you're mostly working on commercials and promos. I realized that you have really a lot of experience on all kinds of camera and lens systems, and I also like the touch that you're giving to the systems. You're making new ideas for products. You have a background in developing and prototyping products, and yeah, and I also like your discussion with you, and you're really kind of a nice guy. I especially like that you were saying that you're a really bad camera trainee and you have been even a worse camera assistant, and now you luckily found your profession in being a good focus puller. I really like that, so I'm looking forward to more of these discussions today. Also with us is Amber Parkour. Is Amber here? I don't see him now at the moment. I hope that you can join. So Amber, he's an LA-based focus puller, but today is actually he's having a job today, so he needs to maybe jump in and jump out once in a while. He tries to be with us as much as possible. I think Amber is also well known for many of you. He's more or less also the technical or the representative for the Focus Puller at Work Forum for the US region. So Amber is a focus puller and camera technician He's doing a lot of projects with multi-cam setups, shows with Lady Gaga weekend. So 20 cameras and more is nothing unusual to him. I hope that this can be back in the near future. Not, we will also work this way. And then last but not least, we have Laird Pierce from Focuspark with us. So Laird, besides being the managing director for Focuspark, you also have a background actually as a first AC. So you studied photography in college and film production university, and you started as a camera assistant in the 90s. I couldn't believe this when you told me, because I thought actually that you're not that old, that you started in the 90s as a focus puller, but nevertheless, it's yeah. And then you worked as a second AC for 12 years and then the first AC for 5 years. And during that period, you started Focuspark cineRT systems together with John Ritchie in 2015. And you did a really incredible success. And I think everybody here in the room knows Focuspark cineRT system. You're now running Focuspark full-time since 2018. And I think it's really worth mentioning that you already sold over 1,500 cineRT systems. So it's really a big success. And I'm really glad that you're with us here today as a representative of Focuspark, and with your background as a first DC, I really think that we will have a lot of good discussions here today. Good. I think we start sessions. So Brian, yeah, here you are back again. Very good. Still people joining in. Maybe to start discussions, I think it's really one of the topics for me that I would really like to understand is you're all the Hi-5 users, and there are so many feedback that we get from the Hi-5. So maybe I'll start with you, Brian. Maybe we can sort of discuss about what is your feedback, whether you're using the Hi-5 very intensively since so many years. So what is your experiences with the Hi-5 as a product? What is the goods with it, but also what is the things that you might be missing? What's the overall impression? How much you work with the Hi-5, and what is your workflow with the Hi-5 usually?
Hey guys. So one of my favorite things about the Hi-5, I'm getting a echo. So this is usually my setup. They usually run the cineRT and then the Hi-5 right below, like if you're doing any changes and those things. One of the things that you might not know is you can keep the power plugged into the Hi-5 with your Cine13s and your 1303s. And technically, you can pop out the battery and just keep pulling that way if you really wanted to, and get rid of that whole should I change the battery? So that's kind of fun. I pulled a lot of the WCU4. I tend to use a lot of C-Force minis on compact builds and builds like that. So I just tend to navigate to the ARRI system.
Hey Brian.
I use a lot of the UDM.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the double talk is now I see you twice on my screen. Can you maybe take off your Bluetooth headphones? Maybe we're getting some interference. So it became almost impossible to understand what you're saying, and you have a lot of good things to say. So
It's
all right,
funny,
back to you.
Are we having you twice on the screen? This is interesting. Are you joining on 2 devices, Brian?
Going to a hard line.
We have you twice on our screen, so I don't know if you're logged in twice, or maybe I should reject you once.
Whoa. Harsh.
So brutal.
Sorry,
Oh no, I think it's working out. All right.
I changed my Wi-Fi settings. I was having time right here.
Go for it, Brian. Sorry.
All right. Sorry about that, y'all. So as you can see, I still have the battery out, and Hi-5's still working fine. One of my favorite features because it gets rid of my should I change the battery thing that I post on Instagram at that point that Megan helped me out with. So put that in there, and 1 or 2, ready to go once again. Still, and I didn't lose any power at that point. I mean, you still have the whole no battery signal, but comes right away, and then there we go. I use a lot of the cineRT nowadays because I try to keep my tubes on the cameras at that point to keep it a little bit compact. And with camera control on ARRI systems and stuff like that, the Hi-5 is a great system to be able to navigate those options to change those settings really quickly.
Awesome. You keep your Hi-5 powered on the stand all the time, actually, and only work with battery when you do it remotely, or because battery lifetime is also something that we are very proud of. That usually experiences that battery on the Hi-5 lasts a full working day. So you charge the battery all the time, or you keep it powered during being on the stand and only snap in the battery when you're then off stand, going to the camera, or how you do that?
I still keep the battery in at all time because you never know when you're going to pop off. Technically, I have a monitor right here. I can pop off to that right now and go at this point. So it's always good to keep the battery inside. It's just nice to be able to power it in multiple ways and not have to worry in a critical moment that your system's going to be going down with a low battery setting. You can always rely on your monitor in a way to help power your handheld.
Brian, speaking of monitoring, and you're quite a guy for innovation and things. What kind of things do you feel like we're getting right with the Hi-5 and the whole system, and what things do you think we could maybe build upon in terms of pulling focus, I guess, off a monitor? I mean, that's when I was a focus puller, I always had to be next to the camera, and that's so. I don't know who pulls focus close to cameras anymore, the traditional way. So yeah, how can we build upon or help support the way focus pullers work today?
So I like to use the term pulling through the monitor. I always think that's a more technical way to describe what we do, because we're using the monitor to pull through the camera, not necessarily using the monitor to full focus. I don't know. It's a interesting tidbit that I've been thinking about for a while. So one of the best things that I've run into are the pre-marked rings that are basically hot swappable in a way. So you're able to take them off really quickly, and then it'll navigate to whatever LDA you had on and put them back on real quick, and switch them out from the 3'6" to the 2 to the 1 foot, whichever one you need. Because usually you would have to go to your pages, hit the pre-marked ring, scroll to the one that you would want to, select it, set, go back, and then it would generate at that point. You don't even have to leave the screen anymore at that point for this type of stuff.
Okay, so it's a speed there, which is critical.
Exactly. So speed is one of the big things that draws me to the Hi-5. That being able to swipe over. Usually when I'm on an ARRI system, you'll have the readouts and stuff like that there, so I can change the white balance. I can do a custom white balance, shutter speed, shutter angle, however you want to say them. All the different tools that you would need to be able to navigate through an ARRI system. So it's all about speed and being able to do things quickly, because when you're on a commercial set and they jam 30 setups in a day, and you don't really have any of the the personnel to help get you there. Being able to have items that are in one unit versus multiple units at that point makes a huge difference, because number one, I don't have to power all those units. Everything that I need is basically right here in this hand unit at that point. Things that I would love to see improved. I've been talking about a roll tally on the actual the knob. So when you roll, you can actually see the indication turn red. And then for me, I usually leave it green, so I have no indicators to change my mind about it. But if it's green, then it's on standby. When you hit roll, it turns red. It's rolling. Kind of fun. But we have LEDs now on the hand units, so I figured why not play a little bit with them. Cool fun concept. One of the big things that I've found that I really do love is the new monitor mount. I'm still using it. I was using a different one on the WCU4 at this point, but I haven't had to take it off from this position where it's been since I've had it, and I've had it since maybe November at this point. So kind of fun. A lot of fun things that speed up your style of pulling, or can speed up the style of pulling.
There's been a topic about kind of the pre-marked rings, and sometimes you've brought it up, and other ACs have brought it up about disengaging them for various reasons. Or can you talk a little bit about that and what your strategy is when you have to do that?
So when I first got my hands on the Hi-5, one of the quote-unquote bugs, or one of the features that it had, where you would be able to pull off the pre-marked ring during a shot. And I come to find that that was really useful for when you got into diopter work, especially with anamorphics, because you have a 3-foot diopter usually. Or a 3-foot minimum lens when you're working with anamorphics, for the most part, cooks and whatnot. So I was finding it useful for when we would throw in a diopter, that I would still use my 3-foot ring, but since it would change and I would have to get to sometimes the minimum quicker, or vice versa, I could change the ring, of course, to help get me there, but I can also pull off the ring entirely to help speed up that process to get me to my minimum, and then slip it back on to help get me faster back to the longer throws, if we were, say, going in real quick and then coming right back out. It was just a fun tool that I found that I can kind of manipulate as a focus puller to speed up some of those processes. And now that we've taken it off, at this point, while you're rolling, you cannot switch, you cannot pull off the ring and the ring revert back to the regular LDA at that point. So I found that I was actually missing that feature when it was removed. So one of those, I know everybody has their own opinions on what makes them, and as far as safety and stuff like that during your pull, because I mean, you can't always just pull it off and then you would revert back to the regular LDA. Like, that's always a possibility. But if you do it in a controlled instance, I found that you can potentially get good results.
You're not afraid that when you do this during a shot, that the motor, it will jump slightly, so you need to catch the motor more or less. So you're not afraid that you are defocusing, autofocus in this situation. So can you handle this as a puller?
It's a focus puller. It's a decision. It's one of those, is if we're doing a commercial, if we're doing a documentary and we're shooting for an hour and 30 minutes, are we gonna use an hour and 30 minutes of that documentary to go into the cut, or are we gonna save a little bit of autofocus so we can get a lot more better footage for certain instances, and then we can revert back at that point and get the moment. For sure, it doesn't work in every single moment, but we always have to make those split decisions. Who are we going to pull to? Are we going to pull to this person or to that person when we don't have any marks, when we're floating around with no marks wide open? You have to make those decisions. And sometimes just having the options there available, can either produce really great results. Because sometimes it's kind of funny, because I was able to pull it off And as my operator was pushing in, it would hold as I was, also pulling at that point and kind of catching up with the switch in the LDA. So I don't know, it was kind of fun. You can track how your operator's movements can help the mechanical side of it all.
Yeah,
it's fun.
It's a brilliant idea. So let us elaborate on this, maybe also together after this meeting. And if anyone has an opinion on this thing, if we should, or even maybe provide the option as a user menu entry to be able while rolling this detach the focus ring and then change the tail. I think it's a great idea. Let's think how we can implement this in future. Thank you, Brian. Maybe also let's get Jim's opinion on all the stuff. So especially Jim, you're working so often and to discuss on virtual reality production. I think this is also something that people are really interested in. Can you share us a story about how you use the Hi-5 on a virtual or mixed reality production, or however you call it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been absolutely brilliant for virtual production, really, because it's kind of plug and play. All the other systems need sort of encoders and things running with them. But I think, as I said, all those seminars over the last few days, we've been talking about it. It's very much like a plug and play system. If I do my lens data correctly, there's no problems. And I think that's kind of all I can hope for. I think my biggest thing switching to the Hi-5, because WCU4 user for 9 years before, well, since it released, and switching across, it's like the speed that it works, the speed in the menus, the biggest thing like signal reliability, which when you're working inside virtual stages, because you're basically in a Faraday cage, signal strength is kind of vital. So it's really nice to not have that as something to worry about. On top of that, being able to integrate all of our serial data, so everything from Laird at Focusburg and everything, we can plumb that straight through to Unreal Engine through the UMC4, kicking back to some old UMC4, and still run all our L-bus motors and everything. It's such a nice workflow that whenever you're doing sort of anything else, it's like, I don't need to worry about that side of it, because there's enough things that are fucking problems in virtual production without having to deal with lens data, basically.
Yeah. In the stage, you're actually using mostly our wide radio modules, the one integrated also in the camera, or you also tried one of the other radio modules like the orange, the 2.4 gigahertz?
I mean, I think
modules.
I've always been running white radio modules just because I've needed more than one handset. So quite often I'll run 3 controllers through to one brain. So then I've got iris control with the DP, maybe zoom control with an operator or the DP if they want it, and I'll just look after focus. And it's nice to be able to split all of that out on the white radio modules. I've done quite a lot of testing with those orange radio modules, which are fantastic. And just have that ability to kind of cut out all of that worry about signal stability and where you're using it. Sort of, my biggest test for that, and I've said it a few times before, is when I was doing a job at the O2 Arena. I was pit side, we had 2,000 people, so 2,000 bags of water between me and a camera, and had signal through all of it with 15 wireless cameras running on site at the same time. And I didn't have to do anything except for choose a number at the start, and it did the rest for me. So it's pretty useful.
I'm also really glad that you mentioned that the radio quality with the Hi-5 and the EMIB, the white radio, is so much stronger, because we really worked a lot to improve the radio quality with the Hi-5 compared to WCU4. Was already solid, but with Hi-5 with radio modules, also you get a lot of positive feedback from the field that the radio stability and the range even with the white radio modules has greatly improved. So can you confirm that?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I remember like really early on, sort of, before you were there, Tobias, and talking to Christine sort of 3 years before a Hi-5 was there and going, why is the signal so bad on the WCU4? Why am I always having to do this? Why is that? And then getting the Hi-5, and literally my first day on set with it, it came out the box, and we're doing a 50-foot techno crane, which already I would hardwire straight away. Obviously, I'd forgotten that it's L-bus on the handset instead of LCS when I'd ordered the kit, because I wasn't expecting the Hi-5 to arrive. So I couldn't hardwire. It was in a SRH 360, so a surround head, which kills all the signal straight away on a WCU4. And then it was getting dropped into a solid wood set, which was a 360 set where it was spinning. It's like an ideal torture test for everything. And through that whole day, I was just like, oh, it's just working. Like I didn't have to think about it; it was just working. And like that's one more thing to not be worrying about is great. I mean, all we want is like an easy life on set, and if I can have a handset that's going to make life easier, that's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant feedback, because exactly this peace of mind to have a good radio connection is exactly what's driving us at the moment. That's why we also bring the different radio modules. It's for each situation you can choose the perfect radio module. If you need more range, you can go with the RF 2400, or if you're in a very difficult environment with a lot of interferences, the orange radio can give you the most stability. And in the near future, when we launch the 900 megahertz in US, these will give you like performance beyond you've ever noticed. So I don't know if Ambar is with us now. So he's currently also testing the 900s, and the feedback we get from him about the shows he's doing with the 900 is like really, really incredible. I'm really looking forward to roll this out in the US in the near future and provide this awesome 900 megahertz to you.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to test the 900 on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame job recently, and it was phenomenal. I mean, I had it was actually interesting because I had 3 handsets. One was on the 900, one was on the regular white radio, and it was interesting that neither handset lost signal at any point. The 900 always had 5 bars full, even when I walked about, walked through the stadium and went outside the stadium and outside of the actual venue and walked around the venue while we were filming. It was interesting. I did not lose connection at all, and that was with the 900. The Steadicam operator, Steadicam focus puller, who was on a regular white radio, never lost signal either, which was I think, to me, very exciting, because that's the first time that I'm not actually worried or been scared that, oh my God, my radio, versus the other guys who we know their radio is pretty powerful. And it was nice to have that confidence that I'm not going to worry about my hand unit losing signal, or my other hand unit with the Steadicam losing signal. And of course, the Steadicam guy, of course, is running around on stage, off stage, in the audience, in and out. And we're talking, everybody's got their cell phones on, everybody's got all kinds of Wi-Fi interference. There's all the lights are on Wi-Fi, all the sound systems are on Wi-Fi. There's a lot of contamination. And to have 2 hand units, one on the regular radio and one on the 900, it really made me happy that for the first time after a long time, I just did not worry about losing signal. And we all know that, like, that's the terror on set. It's like the moment you lose signal, you're like, oh, Jesus, what do I do now? How do I fix this? Or how do I get, sometimes you can run up to the camera, but sometimes you can't. You can't, because the camera may be on a crane and it's like 60 feet in the air. You can't get any closer than where you are. So It was very, very heartening to be on a system that I am now finally confident that it will not lose or drop out.
Yeah, we really understood that this is so important for you guys. So how do you incorporate then the radio interface setup? So the Rio One in your work style, do you always have it on your ACAM to be able to swap the radio modules, or how do you incorporate this?
For this job, I did have it on. It was not the ACAM. I had the RIA on there was 27 cameras, so I don't know which camera. It was like H or G or Z or ZA or
more than the
alphabet.
Yeah.
So so it was on one of the cameras, and then the other Hi-5 was on a Steadicam. but the camera that it was on was a roving camera, and so there was enough opportunity for it to actually drop out or lose signal or get a hit from something else, and it never did, which was to me like a huge benefit. And like I said, it's the first time I've actually been confident that an ARRI system would not drop out.
Yeah, that is good.
Anbar, it's great to hear that you know, things are working for you on that front with the radios. But is there anything that you feel that we can build upon? I mean, connectivity is crucial because without that, then you can't do anything else. But are there any other aspects that you feel that we can innovate?
There are a couple of things, and I'm not sure that I'll get into all of these in this talk, but I don't think there's anything that would. I think the system nails pretty much what needs to be done. Everything from this point forward is tweaking, and I might want something, Jim might want something else, Brian might want something else. I think now it's a matter of just doing the tweaking and allowing the user to have some sort of like control over the UI or control over certain features. I don't think there's anything at this point that would be a global requirement, if that makes sense. I don't think.
Sorry, Amber, to jump in on you there. I just think I totally agree with you. I think that the system now is super stable and does everything that I want it to do. But there's stuff that I will want just for me, like you said, like UI stuff. I think it's a great point that suddenly I can feel like, oh yeah, it's working. I'm sure, like me, you had it really early on with the Hi-5, and you had all the problems that come with new products and everything that we would expect when you get a new product to market. And that's kind of, it's nice now to be like, oh yeah, now it's just tweaking.
I would challenge that actually, because one of the big things that I want are overlays through my monitor, and the overlays through the camera are great, but until you work with a set that wants a clean image to your monitor, when you don't have any settings on your display, and then you start missing them. When you're missing your, the UDM display and focus on the bottom left corner, when you're able to put those up, you start missing those things. And I've been talking to y'all a little bit about being able to potentially generate that overlay from the Hi-5 to the monitor, especially in the situation that I run. My setup, my hand unit's right under my 13-inch on those studio days, and I'm pretty sure we can convert it to 7 inches, 5 inches, whatever your situation is. But being able to come out serial or something like that from the hand unit and be able to generate your overlay displays on your monitor so you can get exactly what you want on the display, no matter who else is looking, wherever they're sitting in Video Village or anything else like that. It's one of the big things that I'm seeing, I think, from challenging companies. I think like Teradek RT is doing this, but they're also integrated with small HD and stuff like that, so they're being able to do that. And one of my biggest things is, what if I'm not on a small HD monitor? And that's why I think having it generate from the hand unit itself and put it on whatever monitor that I want would be really, really powerful as a focus split.
And what are the top 3 things you would like to see overlaid on your monitor?
Well, basically, if I can
focus distance, lens size, and if I'm out of focus, can you tell me when I'm out of focus? That'd be great.
It'd be great to have a wheel if you want to have a wheel on screen. That way you don't have to look down at your focus. If you're trying to do a pull from 10 foot to 2 foot, you don't have to look up and down. One of the big things for me is looking up and down. If you're on a 13-inch, you can put your hand unit right here, but look how much it's taking up my screen. So being able to see more on the screen than having to look down on the hand unit is always more powerful on mine.
Okay, so I heard focus scale, UDM readout,
If you're able to camera data, that'd be great.
Camera data. Okay.
You know, I mean, if we're seriously talking about this, I would say I would love a system where it's Bluetooth compatible, so you can either port it out via serial to the monitor in some fashion or the other, and connect it via BNC to the monitor. But I think we should also be thinking about just using the Bluetooth connection. So if I want to do an HUD, for example, and I don't have to be by the monitor, I can be walking about and I have an HUD on my glasses or whatever, just throwing up that distance in some fashion. I think for run and gun and other stuff, that would be pretty amazing. I mean, that's the future, and then we're living in the future, so why not go all the way?
Well,
Yeah, I feel like we could dive into the deep end on that one. Oh yeah, go for it, Brian. Let's see what you got.
I'm not going to show them too much, but it is something that I've been kind of diving into. I do have posts on my Instagram of me actually using them and stuff like that. But a big thing that I've found is looking down at a monitor when you're on those long handheld 30-minute rolls and stuff like that. Getting them, as you said, Ambar, the display to your glasses is very important at that point, so you can actually see the environment, you can see the camera and the subject. You're no longer looking down to check yourself and everything. It's all right in front of you at that point. And so I feel like going into a heads-up display of some sort is going to be the next step for focus pullers.
What's
really
Ambar, I just need to qualify one of the things you said. You said UDI. What are those, the glasses? Ambar, are you still there?
Yeah, no, I'm here. HUD, heads-up display.
HUD display?
Yeah, just a heads-up display, which it could be any sort of HUD system where I can actually just look at numbers, distances, things. It's all user generated, so I can pick what I want to look at. I may want to look at just the focus distance. I may want to look at depth of field. I may want to look at what's where my handset is versus where I am versus where the distance is. I mean, I should be able to pick what's on my HUD, on my heads-up display. And I think that would be kind of cool. But, this is, again, we're talking about living in some alternate reality where I'm walking about doing this. I suspect way before that, we'll get to autofocus before I get to my HUD, which is kind of a bummer because I'll be out of work at that point. But I'm kind of joking. I don't think focus pullers will get out of work because I don't think we're anywhere close to having a system pick what needs to be in focus and how long it needs to be in focus and when it needs to be in focus. So until that happens, focus pullers are pretty safe, I would say. Yes,
and I mean,
there is autofocus, but it only...
Yeah, someone always will need to put it on the camera because the DOP is not going to do it. So at least we've got that, even if it does get to that level.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, somebody has to
think
pick
it's
where
really,
it goes.
really,
Go ahead,
I think
Ambar.
this is really a very interesting topic that you're touching on, Bob. I think really we can start discussion. I think also especially with Laird in from Focus Park. I think this is a brilliant topic. So how much focus assist do you actually need on a film set, and is there actually, what are your dreams and wishes in this regard? How good are the systems today on the market? I mean, we all know Focus Park. We know the ultrasonic devices. We know that there are some newer, more innovation that's going on in this field. So what is your perspective on this?
Well, I'm not worried because I'm not on set anymore, so I'm totally not worried about autofocus. No, I think it is a really interesting topic at the moment. I talk to a lot of different people about how they use it in the field and on different systems, on ours, on the Light Ranger, primarily is sort of the one that's the big discussion. And, you know, I think we all know when we want that panic button, but I also know that, you know, by and large, most of our users are not queuing up to be able to push a button and, you know, just snap to autofocus. You know, and I've heard horror stories about autofocus on every system, of course, as well. And then there's, you know, it gets even further than that, because it's not even just about, you know, autofocus per se. It's about how autofocus is engaged, how you come, you know, go into it, come out of it, and then how it plays in a shot in terms of racks, you know, between subjects. Where, you know, there's an art form to focus pulling. I mean, that is the art form, is being able to know when to throw and how you throw and how you recover from things. And this is why, you know, just being able to push a button is not always a solution to things, you know. But definitely sometimes it is. I'm not saying that it isn't. And we're working, we've worked quite hard to offer some solutions like our LCS focus tracking menu, whereby you can get in and you can change parameters. I don't know if you guys can see that here, you know, such as, sorry, what's that? Nope. Sorry. I'm set up for 16:9, but I think it's cropping me here in the square frame. But, you know, we've got different solutions to using autofocus, from, you know, being able to do a sort of a secondary film plane offset, not a permanent film plane offset, but one that you adjust per shot depending upon your subject, your subject's closest mark. You have latency compensation, so it's a bit of a predictive setting modifier that can help out in situations where you're noticing that you're a bit behind. You have something called fast landing, which is all about how the DSP or those, you know, parameters that you've set are dropped depending upon how fast a subject lands on a mark. And then stability, which is either raw or regular, and that's an outlier. And there's a trade-off every time you do something like that, where you apply, you know, a really snappy raw algorithm. You are, you know, that you're trading off potential to hang on to your subjects, particularly at distance. So in any event, you know, we've been chipping away at autofocus solutions, but also just, you know, with keeping in mind that you can use all these tools for reference readings at the same time. And, you know, this is partly why we created the high-speed protocol that we're sending to the Hi-5, which is available through the RIA 1 and will soon be available through the LCUBE. You know, it's just, that's 12 times faster than the regular RS-232. That is sent by the cineTape or the UDM, and of course we see those returns in our reference readings while we're pulling manually. So
hey Laird, we have a question here, and it's kind of related to what you're talking about, by Spencer Wood. It says, just as there's Bluetooth connectivity with ECS app, it would be great to see readouts via Bluetooth straight to our phones, just like the cineRT panel that we mount to our stations. So with regards to latency and all Bluetooth, how do you react to that question or request?
yeah, I mean, you know, we obviously here at FocusBug, you know, we're constantly working at the cineRT, but we're also behind me through the shelves, hidden away is our skunkworks section, where we're working on future products. And of course, you know, app tie-ins and the ability to, you know, to set up parameters within a system or overlay things like that, you know, can be done through the phone. But Blue, I've always been a bit on the fence. We've always been a bit on the fence about, you know, using a phone on set as part of a lens control system, just facing that whole Bluetooth, you know, RF situation. And we've seen disasters. I mean, I remember when ARRI first released the app to control the Mini, and you know, initially there were some issues, and we were all excited, and you know, the DIT was all ready to go with, you know, selecting things, or you know, having us set up with the phone, being ready to change things that way, and it wasn't always successful, and there were issues. So yeah, I mean, personally, I think a sort of a dedicated hardware in my mind is always the way to go. But there are some things definitely where if it's not a range issue potentially, or not something where you might be experiencing where latency could really, you know, botch what you're doing, I think there's possibilities of it being a great tool or an expansion to a system itself, you know, where you can do, you know, say you had some hardware, but you wanted an XY controller. Well, you know, nothing would be better than an iPhone screen in that case, you know, things like that. So I don't know if that's answered the question per se, but
there's a follow-up to this for Spencer Wood, and then a new question. He said that was a comment based on what Ambar and Brian were saying on generating a HUD, HUD, for when there can't be focus data coming through the monitor.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess that's a situation where you are maybe closer to the camera.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the grail, really, isn't it? You know, having all our heads-up information there on our focus monitor. And I probably don't need to elaborate on that. I think we all know that's where we want it. And
we got it. Actually, we'll make Top Gun flight helmets now with all that. That's where we're going.
Well, I always dreamed
my money.
Yeah,
my money already.
I always dreamed as a focus puller that, you know, especially on those chilly nights here in Vancouver, that I could be in some warm tank filled with gel. You know, it's just like my second AC just plugs the B and C to the side of the tank, and there I am just controlling everything with my mind while floating in a zero-G environment. But anyways, I'm off topic. Sorry.
Hey, Laird. I know you mentioned the.
Brian,
you go.
So with the Rio 1, you're integrating the focus bug control within the Hi-5 itself to basically remove a controller at that point from us anyway, right? Like that's something that we're on.
Yeah, I think, you know, again, here, I'll switch over to our little camera here, and I'll try to back off here a bit, just to include both devices. My God, that was a manual focus pull. Badly done.
So out of practice, Laird.
I don't. Yeah, we're not even going to get into that. But yeah, I mean, you know, again, this is older software. There's even newer software. Sorry, that's not probably. Can you guys see that? Okay.
Yeah.
Or are we cut off?
Looks
We're okay.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so
the resolution is not the best, but I think we can see it.
Right. Well, I don't know if we can be blamed for that, but we'll take the hit. It's you know, right now we've got the menu, a lot of the main working I guess settings that you would use day to day here in the Hi-5. We've got everything from field of view, 2x display. You can choose your source, the film plane offset, sensitivity, limits, lockout, crossover distance, 2x view, sync mode. I think you know, what we've done and what will be coming, I believe, in the next firmware is when you are on the main page, there's even more information that pertains specifically to the cineRT hand, you know, what's going on with the cineRT. You get your limits and lockout and your source displayed. So yeah, you know, this was sort of our first pass with ARRI, and now we're, you know, Tobias has already brought us into the second version of the firmware, which is exciting. So we're working on that right now, and you know, that's generally we're just paving a way to get more and more onto the handset. Now that said, there's still a huge amount of stuff within the cineRT handset that controls deeper level features within our system, you know, things like the LCS focus tracking menu, stuff like that, where there's going to be a limitation in terms of resources to actually implement that in the Hi-5, but obviously we're going to try to do as much as we can to make those commonly used settings available. And you know, then there are some things which, you know, will, you know, absolutely remain within the cineRT, and that's being able to use the handset as a tape measure, which again, for me, I think is the most exciting thing, to be able to, you know, go into tape mode, get marks and have them instantly display on the Hi-5 handset. And then you can clear marks from the handset and vice versa. You know, that just that bidirectional communications really comes into play at that point and is quite exciting. And, you know, I sort of left off still heavily using marks at the same time I was using my monitor. And so the most meaningful thing to me with our collaboration is that marks-based ability to, you know, just jump out, get marks, have them appear on the Hi-5 handset, and yeah, be able to work with those marks, know your playing field, and then of course you're incorporating the monitor and you're incorporating the arrow, and I think you know, we've done some exciting things so far with ARRI in terms of you know, we've got some smoothing in the works for the arrow, so you can apply certain levels of smoothing to how you see the Hi-5 arrow. You can expand the scale, and for a lot of people, you know, they really train themselves to use that arrow, and they know where they need to be in relation to that arrow, and then they know where they transfer to their monitor while they're pulling. I was just on a fairly large, can probably safely say the largest movie that's shooting right now, or is about to finish shooting soon. And you know, I went halfway around the world to visit them just to talk about the arrow and be able to liaison with Tobias about what they were finding, you know, compared to their experience with the WC4 in the Hi-5, and how we could improve that jointly with the high-speed protocol, and, you know, smoothing within the Hi-5 and presentation of that arrow. Yeah, so this is I guess one thing that's important to say is that this is a collaboration that, you know, is going to evolve and is going to take some time. Yeah,
but it's really important. I mean, you've given it away anyhow already, but yes, we are working on quite some improvements even for the focus park features with the license for our next bigger software update in the Hi-5. You will have some smoothing of the arrow, which I think is a super feedback that we received from many big productions lately, that there is rooms to play with, but you will also receive new shortcuts and user buttons for the focus park. You said a lot of improvements about how you can play with the marks between the Hi-5 marks and focus park marks. So this will be really sure some very interesting update for many of you, which we have in the pipeline here for the future. Thank you, Laird. And I
quick
think
question here from John Sizer, a fellow Texan, just made acquaintance with today. He said, do we have a projected date for the LCUBE update with the cineRT?
Yeah, I was sure that this question is coming in, and yes, so we will definitely be working on it. We are doing tests already in our laboratory.
Okay. So no ETA,
projections
but
I
it's
can't
being
give you
worked
an
on.
exact. Yeah. So projection is early next year. We will have the update for the LCUBE, but we cannot commit to an exact date yet. But promise that there is something in the pipeline that is coming.
Okay, thank you.
But
Can I just say?
Oh,
sorry, Laird. I was
Jim,
just going to say I
yeah.
absolutely love that integration on it. So I've been running tests with the early sort of betas on that, and yeah, like we're talking about the arrow smoothing and things like that being like a minor problem, but initially I thought it was a massive gimmick. If I'm honest, having the integration, that was my sort of first thoughts, and then suddenly using it, and you're like, oh, hang on, I can change my field of view on a user button halfway through a take, and suddenly get way more accurate data without having to touch anything else. And then, like you say, running around and grabbing marks, I can, for that one time I forget to get a mark, I send the second out with my handset and they put it behind the board and grab a mark for me before we do a take. It's kind of, and it just shows up straight away. I just think like it was almost undersold, Laird, how useful all of that stuff is actually in the real world there. It's like it's been a game changer on some sets as to how quickly you can work.
You know, and again, it all comes down to the working method of the AC. It's something all along that, you know, we knew it wouldn't appeal to everybody, but of course it sort of exceeded our expectations in who it has appealed to. And I think that's, you know, this Swiss Army knife approach, you know, where you can, on the handset, you can select to get marks with, you know, either the handset itself or straight from the horns, or even the bug. I mean, the bug was really created so I could give it to my second AC and not have to leave the comfort of my camera card on rainy days. You know, they could walk out up to 120 feet and stand on a mark, and I could get marks remotely just with the push of a button. So again, I think our system, where it may differ from others too, it's really rooted in the practices of ACing, you know, manual focus pulling and you know, having it available as reference. And of course we did bake in things like the marks view mode, where I think I have it here, sorry, you know, which was a kind of an early version of what you see in you know, as a Preston user when I was actively focus pulling. And so, you know, this was all very new to me to suddenly, you know, get a WC4 and to work with the arrow. And, you know, it was one of the things we integrated in our system, I think primarily because initially I was pulling focus with a HU3, so I didn't have an arrow. So I'm like, okay, we got to bake one into the cineRT as part of what you can do with the marks that you collect with the handset, or just in tape mode. So yeah, you know, I think maybe if I can switch back here, focus whisper may be a gimmick. I'm being silly a little bit, like, you know, the concept of having the box call your marks to you. I don't know how often it's used. I've had a lot of stories about how it's used in ways that I didn't expect as well. You know, like in a walk and talk where somebody would set two marks that would be actually quite close together, so they would know when everything was going down and they were walking along, when, you know, somebody was rushing the camera a bit more, and they could actually use those marks being called to them, not just in the typical way of sort of static marks on the ground. Yeah, I mean, again, it was like, okay, in this day and age where things are changing and there's a lot of new people on set, you know, maybe people aren't accustomed to calling marks, and the focus puller wants to still be able to work that way, to have something with being whispered into their ear on the day. Yeah, again, everything in the kitchen sink, you know, while we were developing, and that's still our approach with what we're working on future forward. You know, right now we're working on something called the Flea, which is a little input device, RS-232 input. So, you know, we've had requests to plug in snipers or time of flight, and be able to call those devices up as third source, third source options in the handset. So again, we're listening to what people are asking for. We're trying to expand the multi-tool aspect of the system.
Go ahead, Tobias.
We had a question before on a raised hand. I think it was by Nikolai Herman. I don't know if the question is still up. So if you want, you can unmute and join the discussion. Hi, Nikolai.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, I wanted to ask Tobias, which other devices need an update to work with the LCUBE if that gets an update? So I guess you need, I've heard that the cameras also need an update and the Mini won't get one. Is that correct?
So basically it depends. So the main focus stream, if you mean now for the focus cineRT, for the high-speed protocol update for the LCUBE 1, we mainly will launch an LCUBE update together with a CForce Mini RF update, because these two devices then in combination can work with the focus bug. So with a CForce Mini RF and the LCUBE update, you can have this setup with focus bug license, and on the other hand, you have the rear one. And with either of these devices, you can go actually to any camera for focus bug license with the Hi-5.
But does the Alexa Mini LF, for example, needs also an update to use the high-speed protocol, or is this all? Is the LCUBE the hardware that takes care of all that?
So basically, the LCUBE takes care of that. But to check this out, but the workflow will most likely be that you need either the rear or the CForce Mini RF, but you cannot connect to the camera directly with the white radio and have the LCUBE there for the license feature. So the old Mini camera, for the moment there will be no software update for this camera. We still have to see if we can bring an update for the Mini LF, but of course for the Alexa 35 it will also receive an update. The Alexa 35, it has an serial port integrated on the body. And there is a software update in planning, but without the exact date yet, that will also feature the high-speed protocol in the future. So then with the Alexa 35 and Mini LFs, you should be able to use it directly. But with the Mini, unfortunately, we will not plan any software update at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, thank you. Good. And Amber, you also tried to raise your hand so often, and not sure if you are currently available with us.
Yeah. I have a really important question for Laird. Over your left shoulder, what the hell is going on over there in the Skunkworks thing? I really need to know who those people are and why they're sitting in your shelves.
Late nights, you need friends. They are, there's only so many of us here in the shop, and most of the time we're at benches working away on assembly. So they are basically, as you would, they're always watching. they're subjects. I mean, one of the big things we do try to do here, and have done the whole time that we've been developing our products, is not use mannequins actually, but use everything's based on a human target. So sometimes when we're talking to partner companies, they look at us like we're kind of crazy, because we've actually done programming in the field, on the fly, outside, with cameras, in setups that you would commonly experience on set. And, even down to things like the baseline of our sensitivity is modeled on a human subject. So this isn't, some just mathematically derived. It's actual, real subjects, programming done in the field. So yeah, but sometimes mannequins.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I think somebody earlier, I think Tobias at some point said when do you want autofocus? The answer is all the time, and I can select when it's on and off. I mean, that's really the answer to when do you want autofocus is literally just all the time, and I'm the one in charge of when it's on, when it's off, and where it's going.
Yeah.
And I think Laird, you really, with your system, you've come pretty damn close to that. And I mean, if I was a Hi-5, I would say to FocusBug, you complete me. I mean, they really, it's an incredible system that works together, and having it on the handset is so useful to be able to, like Jim said or Brian said, just be able to switch between fields of view or whatever, just on a use a button, and just to go off of that in the middle of something. I mean, yes, you'll always need the handset for finer resolution details, but to have the basic stuff on my handset when I'm running and going and just and getting that stuff and having that raw data come to my handset is so useful. So yeah, thank you, Laird. I mean, you developed something that's really useful, integrates super well with the ARRI Hi-5, and I think everybody that uses it would like to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ambar. And just as a note, in the forthcoming firmware, there's going to be a toggle as well as just the trigger. And in the meantime, with our latest firmware, I'll patch over here. I don't know if you guys can see it. The resolution's quite bad on my side, and I'm not exactly sure why. But we have something, if you press and hold, called 10-100 mode. So a bit of an in-joke for everybody on set, but basically two options for 10-100 mode, and that's just to have it on. So that is essentially a toggle function for focus tracking. And then you can apply smoothing as well to that 10-100 mode. So in the event you actually really need to 10-100 and you can't be at the camera and there's a setup going on, you can switch into that mode and apply smoothing so the data doesn't throw the lens around in a vicious way, and basically have, like you said, Ambar, focus tracking running full time. Again, applications not even necessarily on set, but also if you have to be off set during a setup or something like that. So,
hey,
living in the future.
With regards to that, like we also have the OCU1 operator control unit, and when you do put that on the camera, that gives the operator the option to take over focus if you are 10-100. And have you got any feedback kind of about that on set?
The OC...
I use that on every single camera build for me, Michael. Now, I bought one really early on. And again, I remember it being sort of Christine's baby, her first product at ARRI when she was there, and seeing it for the first time and being like, I don't ever want anyone to take my focus control. And then suddenly putting it on camera and being like, oh, all that time they spend messing around, I can go and do other stuff and they can just frame up. And it's an amazing tool for that. It's so good, and I use it on every build now, so it lives there as an iris control, so I always get iris data.
Yeah,
I just think it's so nice.
That's really good to hear, Jim. I call it the peacekeeper on set. It really just helps the flow of blocking the shot, keeping things progressing on set, whether that's rehearsing the camera move as well as lighting it. But I guess Laird, it's just, I'd like to test the 10-100 mode, and I'm wondering if you're using the OCU1 at the same time, if there's any conflict with that, because sometimes they might want to take over a zoom and like kind of look at something, get sharp focus or something, it's never just that. So
yeah, I mean we don't have an OCU1 here. I've been hint.
Oh, I got you. I hear you.
We would love to play with it. We actually have some ideas for it that I'm not going to say because then people will be phoning on Monday to try to order one. But this is there's a discussion I think that we're probably going to have with Tobias's team soon about some possibilities with the OCU one that don't exist yet. I also, like Jim said, you know, when I first saw it, I was like, if I was still on set, I wouldn't want the, you know, operator to be grabbing that thing and taking away my, but I think it is a really useful tool. And, you know, just our observations of how you guys have implemented it at trade shows and on set visits and stuff like that. I've warmed up to it. And yeah, John and I will be talking to Tobias soon about some thoughts we had about it. So yeah.
We have another question in the chat. Tobias, we have another question in the chat. I'm just going to ask away. By Neffy Christensen. So does that mean if you're working with the Alexa Mini LF and WCU4 without the RIA or RF motor, the high speed protocol will not be work? So I guess kind of want to know where the high speed protocol will work and where it doesn't, so people have their expectations set.
It's a two-sided question. So with the CFOS, with the LCUBE1 update, so the high-speed protocol is just one dimension of it. As soon as the LCUBE1 will have the high-speed protocol, the communication will always use the higher speed rate. But the second part of the question might be if all the license features will work. So the high-speed protocol is a faster way of communication, but at the same time, it features all the information communication between our system and the focus bug system in regards to all the license features. As I said, so it will definitely work with the RIA 1 and CFOS Mini RF. We're trying to bring it to most cameras possible. It will for sure work with the Lex 35 and also with the Mini LF. And with the Mini, so we're doing tests at the moment, maybe also for a reduced version, but I can't promise anything. But we definitely, you can use the high-speed protocol, but maybe not all the license features. But you always have to work around to use the RIA and the CFOS Mini RF for that.
Okay, but there are a lot of WCU4 owners out there, so they might want to know what's in it for them.
Yeah.
With the high speed.
Yeah. So WCU4, so the Hi-5 itself and the WCU4, they not really depend on the high-speed protocol. The high-speed protocol is really the communication, the wired communication between the LCUBE and the focus bug. The Hi-5, so the WCU4 will not receive the focus bug license update. This I can say. So if you want to use the license features, you're stuck to a Hi-5.
Understood. Okay.
But the speed of communication is similar. It doesn't matter if you use the Hi-5 or the WCU4, but the WCU4 will not receive a license update.
Okay, but the high speed will be in there because of the communication.
Yeah, exactly. So the higher speed, it's always apparent when the LCUBE has received the update.
All right, thank you for qualifying that, or clarifying. Thank you. That was it for me.
Yeah, I think it's exciting, Tobias, that the WCU4 users will have the high-speed protocol again, because it is 12 times faster than the current UDM protocol. So I think that's going to be a real benefit for people who aren't just going to toss the WCU4 away, at least not initially.
Never.
So the high-speed protocol is really the wired communication, so it's independent from the hand unit that you use. But we touched an important point about the OCU1, because OCU1, and we see similar things with the RIA 1, it's really one of the really nice equipments that people need to experience as soon. So people are conservative about this product, but as soon as they had it in production, they used it, you get a very good feedback on it. And yeah, by the way, Jim,
Yeah, show it,
Exactly
Jim.
hoping that
That's
you have
awesome.
this with us.
It's right
Yeah.
next to me, don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm using this as a
And this
new
is
kind of
one
pimped
of
up SXU.
Yeah.
It's one of the main things I've been testing is using the rear to make L-bus wireless. So running master grips, C-motion steady zooms, OCU obviously, and just as that has been like my DOPs have fallen in love with having 3 user buttons that they can have, and I just give them an OCU and I can hide the rest of the stuff. Put this just on the side of a monitor. They get an iris readout, buttons, DITs love it. It's just like that on its own, one of the best things that has come from the whole system, and that flexibility of it. It's kind of like it's like a new ARRI where you can play with it how you want. It's like Lego.
Can you show the whole bracketry and break it all down, how it's all connected, what you have going on there?
Yeah, I can. I will try. So we've got an OCU rigged on. It's L-bus connected into a rear. The rear is sitting on an L bracket that is made by Armor Cine that I've designed with them. The OCU is on its own bracket here with an ARRI lock on the back.
Yeah.
And you can pop all that off and fit it straight on the side of a monitor. So then they could just have the OCU so the DOPs don't touch it. And then just a nice mahogany handle in the bottom, or walnut, I think it is, just because DOPs like a touch of class. All running off one Hi-5 battery on a 12-volt regulator. And one battery will run an OCU and a rear for about 15 hours. Also in the chain, you can add in an L-bus and put the zoom demand at the bottom. So you can have a steady zoom on it already if you want that, which is great. It's an amazing
modular single axis. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you built is a modular single axis control unit there, which is really beautiful.
And you get to just throw it together. That's what I mean. It's like it just feels like Lego. It's kind of grown up, really expensive Lego.
No, that's the thing I really love about the rear is exactly what Jim has done there. You can literally make any L-bus device a wireless device, and that is so freaking cool. You know, to be able to do that on set, and you can, and with the rear one, at this point now I can be a mile away on a 900 radio and still control zoom, or still control iris, or still control whatever the heck is, just to make any L-bus device wireless. I think that is a very, very, very cool feature of the Ria One. And Jim, I love that setup too. That setup is absolutely the tip. It's fucking awesome.
Thanks, Amber. Appreciate
it. What I would really love to see on the OCU, also on the Hi-5, is a call function. So if I'm in the restroom and my operator all of a sudden needs me to come back, he can press the call function and it vibrates in my hand. So I know I need to get back to set. Or if my operator is falling asleep and I can press the call function and it vibrates in his hand, he's like, oh shit, I got to wake up, the shot's about to happen. The call function would be great, guys.
we keep that in mind for you, Amber. We call it Amber call.
Oh, there's another question from Nikolai, and we are getting some feedback in the chat as well. So Nikolai, we'll give you the floor, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I was just the other day talking with writing with Sheen Dooley, and I told him that there's something like the ZUU that I'm sorry.
ZMU, Zoom motor.
ZMU with the W ZE is missing right now in the lineup, and so because Jim just showed what's capable with the Ria One, and this is all very nice, but it's like it's like a Lego brick toolbox, but especially there's no really a piece of equipment that took the ZMU's place for wireless focusing, because with the Mini and the Mini LF, and also I think the Alexa 35, the LCS port is missing, so you need a wireless zoom control to use on the head.
Yeah, so it's a brilliant idea. For sure, we are thinking about many future projects, and especially one the model they mentioned is something that is very obvious. And yeah, just stay tuned. Maybe there's something in the pipeline. We're working on several new ideas. We've got taken the point, and yeah, it's a brilliant idea. Thank you.
Spencer Wood reacted to John's point. Great point, John. I was thinking of the same thing at my prep yesterday. Had to redo the lens data for Summicrons because ECS Sync app data for the Summicrons doesn't include T-stops. I believe, well, we have our lens data archive, which includes all Zeiss, master anamorphics, anything that really ARRIs make, ultra prime, master prime, and so on. That's in our lens data archive. But for Summicrons, you have to map all lenses, all axes, whether that's, Ingenue or Cook, even Cook eye data that doesn't break out depth of field and do all those calculations. So you really have to map all those Cook lenses as well. Just keep that in mind. And then John says, I've been waiting for this since the WCU4. I guess we're talking about the OCU1. And then Brian Eichlmayer and that, and default to custom input of millimeter on lenses. Since you're with us, Brian, can you expand that idea?
So currently, when you're programming on the Hi-5, you default to having to use the scroll wheel to select which millimeter you're using. So 8 millimeter, 12 millimeter, 14, so on. When you're programming lenses and you start to get into the long side of the programming, you end up with having to scroll all the way down to get to the lens that you are. And if you wanted to go to custom is also on the other opposite side of the scroll wheel. So just being able to default to just like the serial number, just the number pad, or I could just put in a 12, 80, whatever. I think that would be a lot quicker than having to wait to have to scroll down to and pick which millimeter. Because a lot of times the millimeter doesn't end up being in the list needed. Like if you, with the tribes, or I just worked with some Helios that were 58, 88, 28, like you get into the odd numbers or the even odd numbers. But either way, I think just a custom input and default to that would make it a lot speedier.
Gotcha. Good. That's great.
But maybe just a short feedback on that, Michael. Yes, so basically two things that you need to notice, Brian. So first thing, we will change with the next software update on the Hi-5 that custom is actually second in line. So before you come to the zoom variables. And the next important thing is that you need to know that you can actually scroll upwards. So if you don't need to scroll down to the end, if you push up, it's more or less rotational. So if you scroll up, you come to the last entry of the list.
It might be because I'm on a beta.
I mean, but yeah, either way, I mean, I just like the serial number, you wouldn't scroll up for the serial number. So I feel like just having the option to just input and just get done away with the scroll wheel, it just make it a little bit easier on us. But to each their own, everybody has their own inputs as far as what's easier for them.
Yeah, because to Brian's point, we might be missing a few millimeters away from whatever focal lengths there are out there or whatever's coming in the future.
Well, and I know I've had a chat with Tobias as well about this. I feel exactly as you do, Brian, and I'm sure a couple of other people, and Tobias has understood what we need, and putting the custom on top really does help. And what I have requested is to have the ability on the custom screen to have a 27.5 or something like that, which currently isn't there. Because I'm sure we have all worked with some really weird lenses that are, 18.6 or 27.5, or just weird numbers which don't exist currently. And yes, I can go into the data later and change that on a laptop, but I'd much rather not have to do that and just have the file be the correct file to start with. And so I'm glad I'm not the only one. Tobias, I'm not the only one. We all want the custom to be right there.
Yeah, so we're working on it, and so we will change lens programming and update it with the next software update. In some extent, we cannot bring every feature, but I promise there will be a lot of updates on lens programming with the next software update of the Hi-5.
I have one question about this lens programming.
Nikolai?
I just talked to a colleague, and I mean, the way to program a lens, especially to enter the name, and it's so much faster with the Hi-5 than compared to the WCO4. But what really was the best in my point, it was the best way to do lens data was with like the Alexa and a laptop. You had like one person moving the lens and telling the other one on the laptop, like the second AC, on what distance you are, and this was the by far the fastest way to go through 10 lenses at once. And I don't know how difficult it is to bring it back, because now the Hi-5 does all the work, but especially with all the wireless connection, maybe there's a way to, in the far future, to give us one more option to do like when all the people ask in the comments for batch processing to get it, or to at least or use a wireless Bluetooth keyboard or something to just type. This was Yeah,
good point. I have to say I was not aware about this feature in the Mini. It was way before my time. It's a good idea. I look into this. If there's any opportunity.
No, it stopped with the Mini. It was in the old classic Alexas. You needed to hook up. This actually was the only way to do lens data before the WCO4 before the WC4 got the lens programming feature. You hooked up the laptop.
It's not related to the Alexa. It was the WCU2 and the WCU3 where you had to do that. It has nothing to do with the camera. It was the handset itself. It was WCU2.
Let me jump in here, Ambar. Initially with the WCU4, you did have to connect the laptop, and that was kind of a non-starter. People did not like that because Nikolai, I hear you in one way. Maybe that was a process that you do like, and it would be great if we can offer that in parallel to this. But if you had to day play a lens or something and you're on set, you can't be plugging in a laptop and all that. You need to work on the fly.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, but I certainly appreciate your feedback. I'm not trying to discount what you're saying. And I'll write it down and talk to Tobias offline. Brian, I see you're chatting away. Is there anything you want to bring us up to speed on as far as the discussions that are happening?
So they're asking how to get the lens files saved to the all that, and I want to save this stuff to my computer in the files I've created. Doesn't seem possible. It only lets you save single lenses, and you have to recreate folders. So, John, are you asking, you want to save those individual folders on your phone? Because technically, The ARRI device works if you Bluetooth connect to the ARRI device, and then you're able to go and access the files from there. So you go to the lens files, and you're able to find which lenses that you would want to send at that point. So on my app, unfortunately, I can't really show you, but I guess I can. So you can see the lens files that I have currently on the Hi-5 through the app. So if I select some of these, so I selected 2, sorry, there's a glare. And then I'm at the bottom of the app, there's a little download tab. So I'll go to the download, and then I'm gonna save them to my lens files on my phone into this section here. So I hit download here at the bottom, very, very bottom. I guess I missed that in the chat. So now that they've appeared, I go back to the phone, go to lens files, and the ones that I just added are down here at the bottom. So now I can go in and select these little boxes here, and then I can choose the little bitty square upload that Apple has. I'm sorry if y'all really can't see, but then you get to this bit, and since I'm connected to the iCloud, and I can make them appear on my desktop at that point.
Yeah.
So I'll just go to save the files, and then those specific files straight from the Hi-5 that I've created appear on the desktop at that point.
And John, alternatively, you could put a thumb drive on the top of the Hi-5 and export it to your formatted thumb drive. That's another option.
And I saw that there are so many questions about folder structure and so on. I just wanted to comment on this. So we are working on an improved folder structure on the Hi-5 and an improved version of the app that you have an easier workflow between if you have sorted your lens files in folders, that you can have the similar folders on the Hi-5. So there's something that we're working on that we will bring also in the near future, that it makes it way easier for all of you to sort lens files and work with the lens files.
John also brought up a good point about the batch lenses. Say if you're working with 8 of the Leicas or the master built lenses or any of those, having basically a lens batch that these next lenses are going to be all Leicas, and able to skip that part of the lens programming section at that point. I guess the question is that a possibility of being able to have the Hi-5 anticipate that I'm only uploading 8 lenses and all these 8 lenses are going to be Leicas? Could we get around the selecting the lens manufacturers at that point? Or is it kind of based on each individual lens and having to always select the manufacturers at that point? Basically trying to get around and save a little bit of time.
It is really frustrating. When you're doing it, I mean, if it could just save the last, where you're doing if you're doing like a Summicron, if it just saves last manufacturer and last name, and then you can either clear it or go to the next or type in what you want. Because if you're doing a set, like you say, a set of 12, it's an absolute pain in the ass.
Yeah, if it just pre-generated it, and then you have the option to exactly erase it and then just put in whatever you want. Yeah, that'd be easy.
Yeah, so it suggests the last entry, and as soon as you type something new, like on a computer, it takes the new entry, and if not, it always suggests the last entry, something like this. It's good points. Yeah,
I mean, while we're doing that, I think what would be really great is just having the iris map to the last iris, because if I'm doing 10 Leicas, the iris is exactly the same fucking place every time. I don't need to map the iris again and again and again. Right? If it's a Zeiss set, if it's a ARRI set, whatever it is, iris is always in the same place. If I can just copy paste the iris over, that would be amazing.
Agreed.
Well, Ambar, there are some lenses that are more logarithmic in terms of the iris. Case in point, Supreme Primes.
Yeah, no, I understand. But I mean, to have the option to, do you want to copy paste? Yes, no.
Okay.
And then I can do yes or no.
Yeah, so if you're in this situation, that's it kind of defaults to that. I gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that would be so much quicker to go through lenses. I mean, the ARRI system is already really quick. And I love the fact that I can actually, as opposed to another system that's built here in California, whose name I will not say, Howard, sorry, where
Bless
you
you.
can only pick a weird 10, I mean, it generates its own numbers, and then you get to 0.9, and now you go all the way backwards because you can't go up or down and you're running out of space. It's really annoying. I love the fact that on the ARRI system I can literally pick any single point I want on the lens and I can actually input it. So I love that fact, but it would be nice to be able to skip the iris for a batch process kind of thing.
Something that was brought up, speaking on Howard, earlier was the diopter mode. Are we looking into expanders, doublers, diopters, and integrating those types of modes into the hand units themselves to kind of give us a little help on the focus scales and whatnot? It's basically we're having to do that math in our head and pull through the monitor, and hopefully on a +3 on a 135, scooting in and out, you're good.
Yeah, it's a good point. So I have to admit, I didn't think about this yet. But let's elaborate this in the future. So we need to understand first clearly what we can bring there. I think it helps you. We definitely look into it.
Yeah, I submitted that as a feature request as well, Brian.
Michael, I know I've talked with you about this one, but also the full control of the zoom in and zoom out on the focus scales, because I want to be able to see my infinity all the way to my minimum with that ability versus just being able to cut off 3/4 of the scale at any given time, because you never know when you're going to have to swing that wheel. And case in point, throwing a diopter. Yeah.
But the zoom in and zoom out, we looked into this, Brian, after my visit at you and with you in June this year. At the moment, it's not possible to zoom in further or zoom out wider in the Hi-5 because mainly we want to keep everything readable also on the screen, and otherwise this would really be a lot of recalculation. So we understood it, and we think maybe we can have something further down the road. But at the moment, yeah, it's not in the Hi-5.
I mean, can I push you further and just ask for a focus scale? I mean, just like we have, focus bug integration and stuff like that, and to access it, you take over the whole entire screen. If you wiped it away and just expand it on just the focus scale, because I don't have iris, if I don't have zoom, that space on the Hi-5 is basically wasted. So if we were able to scoot that over, use the full scale, I know you're going to have to calculate that scale anyway, but if it's taking up the whole screen, is it still something that would have to be recalculated to zoom out and zoom in?
So like really individualizable displays that you can more or less set on your own. Like you don't need an iris scale, just do a focus scale, make the focus scale larger. I see the point.
Challenge everything.
I can promise you it's a lot of challenges here, development wise. We need to see, so theoretically it's possible, but also we need to really see if we can spend so much resources on this feature, how important it is to you guys. So please send all these requests really to us. We promise we look into it. We want to make the device as usable for you as possible, and we're really willing to work deep and hard for that. But sometimes, we also need to really focus on the essential things. So we are thinking really about individualizable display on the Hi-5 to some extent, but of course we can't go completely wild on that.
Yeah, I hear what you guys are saying. I mean, you want user interface customizability, and just like maybe a computer screen, maybe depending on what situation, you might want to split it this way and then, put certain amount of information, or maybe split it into quads like we're seeing each other now if we needed to. So it doesn't hurt to dream. But yeah, we're very much open to crazy ideas as possible, and we see how close we can come to that.
How are y'all using y'all's Hi-5s in handheld situations? Are y'all going mobile with 7 inches and 5 inches? Are y'all tossing everything on the back of the monitor and putting everything in your hands? How are y'all going about all that?
I'll go first if you want. I've got I use the 703 if I'm going handheld. I use the cineparts in the UK. Do a great like battery plate that's got a Teradek cradle in it, so I can run it off a couple of MPFs if I want, or just a little mini V-Log. And I use a cam jam so I can offset that weight. So it puts the handle here and the Hi-5 in the crook of my arm. I mean, to be honest, most of the time I just use my 17-inch, but if I have to, that's what I'm going with.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of a
Yeah,
good
I do it a
question.
little different. I have my.
Oh, sorry. Go
Sorry,
ahead,
go
Brian.
ahead.
Oh, that's Ambar. Yeah, which ways do you think ARRI can, maybe you don't have the answer now, but improve upon how you use the Hi-5 going handheld and run and gun? Because to Jim's point, and what we also hear is that as soon as you have the monitor on top, it becomes top heavy and so forth. And so it'd be good to maybe create something that somehow balances all together. So at the same time, maybe you can walk around, use your hands a bit. And I see, Brian, you've always talked about the antenna, being a point at which there could be, you could break it or pressures put on it, and antenna is communication. So if that goes down, then the whole system goes down. So I don't know. Since Philip Fisher's on the call, maybe we have to make cages for the Hi-5 now, right, Philip?
To be honest, don't include me now. I'm just a listener, and maybe there's something which I also can think about. But yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't meant too seriously, but yeah.
I put mushroom antennas on because obviously I'm not running the ARRI branded antenna right now. But I was bending my antenna, and that's what made me switch mine. So I was running the mushroom antennas that you see on a lot of wireless devices out there. I've run the finger antennas on it. I'd say experiment, and I'd be curious to see what y'all find as far as if any of those, besides the ARRI antenna, reduce your range or anything like it. I'm just kind of curious because I haven't really seen any differences in it. But
Tobias, do you have any input on people choosing other antennas out there and what they need to look for?
Yeah, but basically we advise not to change the antenna. So the antenna with the antenna gain is really designed, and also the internal gain of the module, that it works best with our antennas. Besides, so radio models need to fulfill the regulations of the certain countries. That's why it's mandatory that to set the region. You might have realized that when you put in a radio module for the first time in the rear one, that you cannot enable power before you set the region. This is really a legal perspective. But just if you change an antenna, which we do not advise, really also be careful and be sure that you choose an antenna with the correct antenna gain that fulfills your country's legal requirements. This is just antenna and antenna gain. It's just an important thing that you are careful what you're doing. So it's possible you can change the antenna. That's why we also designed it that it can be removed. We do not advise it to do it, but if you do, just be careful and be aware what you're doing.
In which case, can I humbly request that ARRI makes cooler looking antennas, because ACs are all about looking cool. So if you can make cooler looking antennas with the same gain values, that would be great.
Yeah.
put patches on them too.
Amber, I always say design follows function.
Well, like a fuzzy head on top of the antenna kind of thing.
White bubblehead.
Something like just cool. And again, I don't know what you guys are doing for your handheld stuff. I normally just have my second AC hold my 17-inch monitor, and I just get up on his back and have him run around, and it works for me really great. So you guys are doing something wrong.
That's talent.
That's how you know you've made it.
Very good. By the way, we are 20 minutes overtime already, and I'm happy to continue talking. So everybody is welcome to join. I just wanted to mention that we're way beyond the initial time. I hope that also for you guys, Laird, Jim, Amber, Brian, Michael, you're still available for us. If not, please, everybody understands if you need to drop out.
Well, Brian is dying to show his bulletproof vest he has to wear and down there in Texas. So let's check it out, Brian. What else you got on there?
So you know it's free carry in Texas. So yeah, we have to have bulletproof vests. I'm just kidding. So with AQFS, we kind of challenge ourselves to we bounce ideas back off of each other. We take hints from each other, and we push ourselves to to get around the environments that we're thrown in every day with our focus situations, with our focus stations. I mean, we're in Texas, so we can be out in the middle of a field just like we can be on the road in a city in 20, 30 minutes at that point. So having options to get us around that is something that we've found that is something that we have to run to develop ourselves. So we've worked out different ways to basically incorporate your wireless tear deck, your batteries into a type of vest. If I wanted to, when I'm running Preston, I can technically put the VOU unit here as well, and then run everything to a 7-inch monitor that's sitting on the hand unit. And if I really wanted to, I could then clip all that to the vest and be hands-free, so I can do any work at that point. But it all kind of comes down to the user, because Texas, it gets really hot. As you can see, that is a lot of fabric to wear. So wearing it for long periods of time makes you sweat a lot more than normal. But you're able to, get the shot done at that point. So I like to be able to remove it quickly, take off the tear deck and with the battery, and just throw it back on my 13-inch at that point. So it's just kind of curious what other people are having to run into, and then when they're using the Hi-5s, if you've seen any differences on your handheld setups and stuff like that.
Good. Thanks for sharing that, Brian. You were kind of frozen for my screen. I don't know about everybody else. So now you look frozen because you look like super happy, which is good. It's a good look, but it's definitely frozen.
Oh, you're fine. I'm on your side.
Another topic that came up, Tobias, is K limits and on Hi-5. So it's obvious how to set maybe a focus limit, say 3 feet to 5 feet, say. And when we use the blank ring, the smart blank ring, then everything from 3 feet to 5 feet is the whole focus throw, beginning to end on the knob. But sometimes people want to shrink that movement down. And John Sizer, if you want to speak to this, in terms of your personal experiences, that'd be cool. Just unmute yourself. There he is.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, just didn't want to get it wrong, and I want your point to get across as clearly as possible. So,
yeah, appreciate that. I was doing this on a macro lens, and I don't usually bother programming those and having those in the hand unit, because there's not a lot of point to me. I'm normally at the bottom end, and there's really no numbers to go off of. So I'm at just a very small range, and I feel like they used to be able to do it on the K limit, just set that, and you just couldn't go outside of it, but it kept the size or the throw on the ring where it was. And I think what only thing I could do with the Hi-5 was map the whole ring to that small range. And then that became a huge pull for a very small thing. And I just didn't find K limits anywhere in there versus limit.
Yeah,
I have a
I'm not sure
workaround.
if I got the question correct. Yeah, but if you want, Jim, you can explain.
Yeah. So on the Hi-5, as opposed to having the 2 limit options like you did on the WCU4, it now only allows that knob limit function when you've programmed, like you say. What I've been doing as a workaround is I'll just dump a lens file in. Doesn't matter, it's irrelevant if you're not using the numbers anyway. And then you can do that knob limit function. You just have to have a pre-marked ring assigned on the actual handset, basically. As soon as you've got that, then you can do that functionality the same way. Kind of a bit dirty, but yeah, that's how I'm working with it at the moment to do that.
Okay, and I thought
It's
that I
actually the
tried
intended way for us to do it, because we did a smart ring.
I had a blank ring on there the whole time.
Yeah, because
so
I would recommend just pulling all rings off. Just don't use any ring, and I think it'll default to doing what you wanted to do. I think that's how I did it on a macro recently. You just pull all the rings off, and all of a sudden, what limits you set are now expanded across the way you wanted to do. I know what you mean about the knob limits, and I think that's how I did it. I'll have, I don't have my macro on right now, so I can't test it. But I think
Jim,
Tobias wants to say something.
I think Jim has the key
can
there.
explain to you how it works.
Is that when you do have the smart ring on, you will only have, say, 3 to 5 feet as that active, only active part of focus. Everything outside of that is dead. So the real issue is that we don't have enough smart rings in the United States, but they're starting to come in. And so, John, do you have a set of smart rings?
Yeah, it's funny. You say you don't have enough. I bought all 10, so I have way. There's no way I'm going to use all those, but I have them all.
Oh, good. Okay, so you're one of the few that got. Okay, we're still trying to catch up to all the existing customers. Yes.
The way it works, if you set a limit in the Hi-5, when you put the smart ring on, you always have the scale of the smart ring on the display, and you keep the scale, and you only pull focus in the small area between your limits. So everything outside your limit is more or less a dead pull. You don't pull anything, and only you pull focus between the limit. When you remove your smart ring, the scale the limit that you set will scale all around the ring, and you more or less zoomed in, and you can rotate the knob and focus very precisely, because the limits you set is then the full focus knob. So without a smart ring, either not attached or disabled in the setting, you will have the limit zoomed in, so the focus knob is scaled. And if you put a smart ring on or set the smart ring in the Hi-5 settings, you will have the set smart ring for the knob size, and you only pull focus in the small area where the limits are. So these are the 2 options that you have. We think is actually hope that is what you're looking for.
Yeah, I'll have to try that. I've got a day off today away from my gear, which is nice, but I kind of wish I had it. So, and I guess there isn't a way to be able to shorten the throw if you did just do the limit instead of it being the whole knob, like something in between those 2, settings.
So in between, you can choose different kind of focus knobs. If you choose a different knob,
the different ring would do what I'm saying, probably. I think that's what
the different rings I meant. Yeah, exactly. You can choose a different ring. So just play around, set a limit, remove the ring, put on a ring, and then you see what happens. It rescales all the time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Do we have one or more questions? Is anything that we can still answer? So we're not.
I had a question come up in a text. They're asking for like a silicone base skin for the Hi-5, so you can really customize your Hi-5. Any options towards that? I mean, I know it'd be super low as far as the code integration and stuff like that, but you know, any customizations for Hi-5 coming through?
So you mean really physical hardware customizations, like different colors of the Hi-5 and so on?
Yeah, I know Laird came out with his silicone covers for his remotes. Just kind of curious on if you're ever thought about adding some silicone to the Hi-5, so to protect it from drops, scratches, anything like that. I mean, I know it would help prolong the life for the rental houses at least. But for personal users, if I send it out with a buddy and, you know, they unfortunately drop it, am I going to have it come back scuffed on accident, and I just have to kind of live with it at that point? But yeah, having a silicone cover for that, for the knob, maybe, I don't know, a couple things.
Yeah. So
Brian, you might have a good business idea for yourself.
Yeah, toss it back.
Yeah. So, but I mean, we really understand that customization is important for many users, and we were looking into it. We can't play too much we're producing quite a lot of Hi-5s, and this just would kill more or less the way our distribution network goes. It's really logistic-wise extremely difficult to put on a lot of customization, but to some extent, it's really, I think, an interesting thing. Regarding protection, so the Hi-5 is really built extremely stable and sturdy. So far, we really had no complaints that anything was broken. We had a lot of people being afraid that the display might break. The Hi-5s, they also come with a display protector. So there's not a single Hi-5 display broken. At least I'm not aware of any. Maybe it's a strong saying there's none, but I'm not aware that service had any issue with any broken display so far. So there's really not much to worry about the physical robustness of the Hi-5.
Other than the small scuffs here and there. I mean, like I said, I've had this one since November, and you know, I only have a few scuffs here and there on it, so it's held up pretty well. It's more or less, you know, for the rental houses and stuff like that, if they're going to have an option, because you know, getting into the touchscreen base and all the other stuff, just, you know, preventive damage, basically.
I like the idea. I mean, as I said, Philip Fisher is on the call, so maybe also with the PCA department, we can come up with some nice ideas. We got the point. I think it's cool. And Jim, I think you wanted to mention something to this.
Yeah. It was just that because we were talking through the week, and I was asking if I could buy the plates unanodized so I could color code the Hi-5s. So just probably another one for Philip to think about. If we can start buying spare parts unanodized and anodize them ourselves, that'd be great.
Making
Get in
a
line.
picture of your anodized.
It can be orange.
Hey,
else.
I just have to say, last week my Hi-5 was being used by another focus puller because I was lead AC, so I didn't have to pull focus, thankfully. But she happened to drop it face down on a rocky path that we were climbing up, and I'm very happy to say that literally nothing happened. The only thing that I have is like a little bit of a paint chipping off at the bottom, but the screen was fine, everything was great, system worked, you know, and that was a pretty hard drop, and it's a pretty good testament to the fact that you have a large screen falling face down onto rocks and nothing happening. So I was quite happy about that. I mean, not happy about that she dropped my system, but pretty happy that nothing happened to it.
Thank you,
at the start, when I got my first Hi-5, I had another demo one from a reseller in the UK. So I used that as a prime opportunity to tough test the Hi-5 with not my handset. And I mean, I couldn't break it. I'm pretty heavy-handed with it. I mean, it's pretty good at dealing with a lot of abuse. And particularly, just going back to the aerials earlier, it's like I do this with my Hi-5 now, is that like by the aerial quite happily, showing people that you can't break it. I can see Laird like, but but it is. I've not managed to break anything, and I'm pretty good at breaking stuff. It's like a special skill.
Good.
Tobias, I just put something in the chat where there was a gentleman, I guess he was one of our field testers in Europe. He had a silicone cap that goes over the Hi-5 knob. So so you can see what people are looking for. They're trying to pimp out their Hi-5s and personalize it, and
Yeah.
Hit my
I mean,
five.
this is Carl Kyler, one of the great field testers, and also Jim on his your 5. You have your beautiful sticker, so please feel free to put stickers and everything on your Hi-5 as you wish.
Brand them up.
Good. Just curious,
Oh,
so we are now yeah.
You're muted, Laird.
oh, we can't hear you, Laird. It doesn't look like you're muted. I don't see the mute button, but unless you're just
how about that? How about that, guys? Is that
Yes.
working? Okay.
There you go.
Sorry, I was merely saying if anybody wants to inquire about silicone, I can point them in the right direction. But of course, these things are all volume based, and you're looking at quite a large volume. So I can understand where Tobias is coming from with regards to getting this sort of stuff made. It's it can be a challenge, and if you're not Apple, the volumes required are fairly large and stuff, but it can be done. So if anybody's interested, reach out to me at FocusBug, and I can pass you on to a company that does a good job and is based in the States.
Thank you, Laird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just looking, we're now more than 2 hours in the call. Is there anything that pops up in your mind that we are discussing, or is there anything still in the chat that we missed that we can discuss now? Also after the meeting, always feel free to reach out to us, to our service departments, and if you have any ideas or if there's anything that was not answered to you, pretty sure we can also take this after the call today. Otherwise, is there any final ideas or things from anyone that we could discuss? Otherwise, I think we will also close the call then.
Hey, before we bounce off, I just want to say thank you to Laird and Brian, Jim, Michael, Tobias, and everybody else here for this thing. But I also want to give a shout out to Clemens, whose brilliant idea this whole shebang is. So
yeah,
thanks to Clemens, and thank you guys, and it's been fun. And I hope I actually get to see you all in the really near future.
Thank you, Ambar.
Yeah, thanks, Ambar. And yeah, the channels are open in case anybody wants to reach out. I know one of the things that's been really exciting about working with ARRI over the last couple of years, what it's sort of bloomed into is contact with not just the ECS department, but with like Michael Best in New York, and meeting with Ambar and Jim and focus pullers everywhere basically. I think this sort of conversation does yield results. I've really seen it, and I've really seen it happen, particularly over the last year as other focus pullers have gotten involved, and not just from the cineRT perspective, but conversation about something that we're interested in. We can take that feedback back to ARRI, and Tobias is very open to at least discussing things, and so there's lots of possibilities, and it's so reach out to me at FocusBug, or Ambar, if I can throw you out there. You're the master there on Reddit. All this stuff trickles back to ARRI, and they're listening. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And for us,
Yeah, no,
we
I'm
have
always happy
our
to,
ears open for the community.
Yeah, no, I'm always happy. Everybody on here should know that. I'm always happy to field any questions or inquiries that you may have about the Hi-5 or any ECS products. Typically the Hi-5, but I'm always happy to be share whatever I know. And if I can't, if I don't know the answer, Michael's getting a call or Tobias is getting a call, and they know that. So, most often it's 3 a.m, which is when I love to call people. So that's the that's what it is. But yeah, we're all here as resources, and hoarding knowledge never works. So I'm happy to share.
Yeah, thank you, Amber. And for us at ARRI, it's really important. So we really want to hear your feedback. We really want to listen, understand. Just please also you understand that we cannot implement each and every idea due to several reasons. Some are technical, some are just also resource issues that we don't have enough resources to fulfill all the wishes. But we really want to create the system that fits your work style and is really there for you and also in the critical situations. It was really an amazing session. Thanks to the podium. Thanks, Brian, Jim, Laird, Michael, Amber. Although you didn't have your camera on today, always enjoy your funny stories. So, and really, as you said, Amber, thanks to Clemens, Focus Puller at Work. Thanks for hosting the show. It's a big opportunity. I hope that we can have these kind of things every year and evolving. I think it's just so important that companies like ARRI have the opportunity to discuss with an online community. It's just so much less effort than having individual calls. So it's really a great thing. Thanks, Clemens, for that. Big round of applause. Thank you. Good. Otherwise, as Michael said, please reach out to us on individual things. If you have issues with your Hi-5 technical issues, or our service departments are always also there for you. So I really believe our service is very responsive and very good. We have a global service network, so you will not be alone with your problems. And also the communities, they're always also like Focus Puller at Work, you can post, and someone will be reacting to your needs. So thank you from my side. Thanks to everyone. It was a great show, and I wish you all a good day. For me, it's a good night. It's quite late here in Austria. So all the best to you. Thank you.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Good luck. And
Thank you.
And thank you, Laird, again, for an amazing product and making the Hi-5 complete. So we really appreciate your amazing innovation. Thank you.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thanks,
That's what
Big
Michael's
love
like.
for Laird.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.